Chapter 1. The King is Dead. There is many a boy here today who looks on war as all glory, but boys, it is all hell. William Sherman. The Wailing Mountains, Khyril border, March 17th, 1037, the year of our goddess Mashka. I shiver and hunch my shoulders, pulling my cloak tighter around me to guard against the biting early evening wind. I've been rooted to the same spot for the better part of the afternoon, looking out onto the unclaimed wastes and waiting, hopefully, for someone who probably won't be coming. Abaddon whines next to me, and I reach down to scratch my fingers through the thick, coarse hair on his ruff. "Sorry, boy," I murmur. "You didn't have to wait with me. We'll go back soon and get cooked to give you some of those soup bones you like, aye?" The large dire wolf chuffs his agreement, leaning heavily against my legs. "So easily appeased," I chuckle, giving him one last rub between my ears. I shift my weight in an attempt to regain blood flow to my lower extremities. The movement causes the parchment haphazardly stuffed into one of the inner pockets of my cloak to crinkle. I pull it out, reading the short missive for what must be the 100th time since it was delivered 3 weeks ago. "My dearest son, your father has fallen ill, and the palace healers are not confident he will recover. They say even if he does recuperate, he will never be the same. You're needed, my little love. It is time for you to come home. I know what passed between the two of you all those years ago can never be forgiven, but if you can find any spark of love for him remaining in your heart, your father would see his eldest son one last time before he is judged by Nahi. I write to you in love always, Mother." Abaddon pricks his ears and a soft growl rumbles from his chest, alerting me to an approaching presence. He's not immediately on the attack, so I wait, assured that whoever is coming isn't a threat. "Out here brooding again, Commander?" A large hand roughly claps my shoulder, knocking me forward a few steps. I clear my throat, a little unsettled that Pharaoh has caught me during my vigil. "Something of the sort." "What you got there, Your Highness?" His hand darts out, snatching the piece of parchment from my hand. "Gods, Pharaoh, some shite is private, you arse." He laughs, dodging to the side. "No, don't give me that line, boy. We've fought together for nearly 10 years now. We're practically brothers. No need for secrets between us." "You can barely read anyways, you half-wit." I feint right and lunge to the left, grabbing the note from Pharaoh's meaty hand while Abaddon nips at his heels, keeping him off balance. "You wound me, my prince." Pharaoh straightens up and places a hand over his heart. "Come now, tell your best friend what the mysterious letter says." I scowl at him. "The king is ill. Healers don't think he'll pull through." He frowns. "Gods, what happens if that comes to pass?" I begin to respond, but am interrupted by a green recruit barreling towards us. Abaddon barks once in warning before coming to stand in front of me. The recruit, seeing the giant black dire wolf, comes to a halt, hands on his knees and breathing hard. "A messenger from Vale," he gasped out. "Needs to speak to you right away, Your Highness. Commander." Pharaoh and I exchange a look of trepidation before turning back to camp. I close my eyes and inhale deeply. There's nothing for it then. Let's go see what he's got to say. The three of us trudge through knee-deep snow, Pharaoh and I walking shoulder to shoulder with the young soldier trailing silently behind us as Abaddon bounds through deep drifts of snow, kicking up sparkling white flakes and joyfully snapping at them as they fall back to the ground. The sounds of the men under my command drift towards me as they prepare for their evening meal. My stomach grumbles as the smell of roasting meat wafts toward us, reminding me that I had spent most of my afternoon scanning the wastes. Glacial blue eyes and white hair, an impish smile. I breathe deeply, trying to convince myself that the uncomfortable pit in my stomach is merely hunger and not disappointment. When we come inside of my living quarters, I dismiss the young soldier with a terse nod. Pharaoh and I pause outside the door, and he cocks an eyebrow at me appraisingly. "You ready for this, Commander?" he asks, his tone softer than usual. "Aye?" I stare at him in confusion. He grabs my cloak and pulls me away from the door, most likely to lower the chances of us being eavesdropped on by whoever is currently waiting in my cabin. "Speak in plain Catan, as your friend. There's a man in there who's likely to tell you that your father has died and you're going to have to give up being our commander to return to Vale and become king. I? Pharaoh huffs in frustration. You've got some thoughts on that, surely? Oh, I blink. I have some thoughts. I have an account to settle once I go back. I smile grimly, thinking of my half-brother Alexander. Only 6 months younger than me, we'd grown up as close as twins, and I had considered him my best friend. And I, naive as I was, did not once suspect he never felt the same. Why do I get the impression you're not speaking about a monetary account? Pharaoh murmurs. Because you're far more clever than your appearance lets on. I give him a sharp grin, elbowing him in the side to let him know I'm only jesting. Any opinions on the potential passing of your father? I can physically feel the darkness that creeps over my body. My features tighten and my limbs coil, readying for a fight. It's past time the bastard died. If I'd had it my way, he would have died the night I left for the wastes, I growl. My closest friend takes a step back, recoiling from the venom in my voice. His hazel eyes gaze upon me with a new wariness. As you say, Khitan. Apparently tired of waiting for us, the messenger from Vale bursts out of my cabin and sprints towards me. My king, King Khitan, a message from Dowager Queen Valyria. Several of my men catch the word king and abandon their meals and fires, coming to crowd around us. They begin to murmur amongst themselves, and I scrub my hand over my face and groan. Aye, deliver it then. I wave my hand impatiently, my irritation rising at being surrounded by so many in such a small area. My loyal pet presses against my legs, his weight and warmth settling me. I soothe myself by absently running my hand through the soft fur between his ears. The messenger straightens up and begins to speak. The Dowager Queen Valyria requests that her beloved son Khitan, the heir of Khyril, immediately return to Vale. His father, the warrior King Nikia, was embraced by Morki 2 weeks and 1 day past after suffering an apoplexy. The Deisaki family, as well as the kingdom, eagerly await the return of the heir. The king is dead, long live the king. My soldiers drop to their knees around me, fists over their heart in fealty. The king is dead, long live the king, they cry in unison. The king is dead, long live the king. Several hours later, Pharaoh and I collapsed into 2 chairs around the small table in my cabin. It had been chaos gathering enough supplies for myself, Pharaoh, and 25 of my most trusted soldiers to leave for Vale at first light. But now our packs have been prepared, horses and men selected, weapons readied. All that is left is to wait for sunrise. I wince, wishing I had enough time for one last trip out into the wastes, one last chance to speak to Commander. Pharaoh gazes at me steadily, removing a small flask from his pocket. He drinks deeply, then passes it off to me. I take a pull, relaxing as the brandy slides down my throat and warms me from the inside out, and hand it back to him. We continue to stare at each other until it starts to become uncomfortable. The only sounds in the cabin are the harsh wind blowing through the cracks in the walls, and Abaddon gnawing on soup bones we filched from the camp cook while he lays beneath the table. Something on your mind, Pharaoh? I finally ask. Aye, there is. He takes another swig from his flask. You're my best friend. I know you better than probably anyone, but you're still a tough nut to crack, yeah? I know there's more to your story than you've let on. My eyes widen and I involuntarily lean forward, automatically scanning the door and window of my small cabin for signs of anyone lurking about who might overhear. I know we're alone. The rest of my men bedded down for the night, but ingrained behavior demands I look all the same. Commander, Pharaoh's voice grounds me. You know me. You know I'd sooner cut out my own tongue than betray your trust. I grunt in acknowledgement, motioning for him to hand over the flask. He does so reluctantly, eyeing me the way one would a wild beast. I think it's time to tell me why you left Vale and came to the arse end of nowhere to freeze your balls off with a bunch of commoners and fight against those gods-forsaken savages. I grimace, tilting the flask until the last of the brandy drips into my open mouth. Cocksucker, he mutters, glaring at me. I wanted to take up as a soldier. Vale was too constricting. I answer, rotating the now empty flask in my hands. You're a shite liar, Pharaoh responds bluntly, rapping his knuckles on the table. I chuckle darkly. Those in Vale would tell you I'm the best they've ever known. Catan. The tone of my friend's voice causes me to look up and meet his eyes. At the very least, I deserve to know what I'm walking into. If you've got a score to settle, I want to be by your side while you do it. I nod slowly, opening my mouth and closing it again. I take a few minutes to arrange my scattered thoughts, preparing to tell Pharaoh things I've kept close to my heart for 10 long years. You're right, I finally say to my friend's apparent relief. I slowly hold up my left hand, making sure Pharaoh gets a clear view of the missing little finger and the partially missing ring finger. I rotate my palm out, letting him see the missing chunks of flesh on the outer side and palm of my hand, and the twisted scar tissue that makes it hard to wield anything larger than a dagger. One of my father's most loyal knights did this to me my last night in Vale. I barely have time to register the shock on Pharaoh's face before I launch into my story.